Want to achieve network marketing success? Then you're in the right company. Hello, and welcome to Leave Nothing to Chance, hosted by networking marketing giant, John Solleder. Learn everything you need to know about the network marketing space from somebody who's actually done it. Join us every week for front row seats as we feature some of the finest and most successful personalities in network marketing. Leave nothing to chance. Join us now.
Well, everybody, this is going to be a privilege. This is a unique show. We've had, all sorts of people with all sorts of diverse backgrounds on Leaving Nothing to Chance over the last 4 years. About a year ago, I met the next gentleman that I'm going to introduce, and boy, does he have a unique background, to say the least. And he's doing a great job in the network marketing field. Very, very, very part-time, by the way, when you hear what he does for a living, and you can kind of tell from the white coat, he's got another job besides building multi-level. So my new friend, Dr. Ruben Restropo. Doctor, how are you today?
I'm doing great, John. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Well, thank you for being here. I know how crazy your life is, and how busy you are with a multitude of different things. And here's a little bit about Dr. Restropo. First of all, he's a distinguished teaching professor. He's the coordinator of research at the University of Texas in San Antonio. Truly a Renaissance man. And when you hear what he's doing in network marketing, you're going to say, what's wrong with me? I'm full-time, or I'm serious part-time. And this guy's got no time, but he's figured it out in a very unique way. And he's going to share some of that with you today. But let's start at the top, Doc. A little bit about your medical background.
Well, I was raised and trained in Colombia, South America. I became a physician back in 1987, and I was training and practicing in the area of pediatric pulmonology. So I used to work with a very well-known physician. It's funny because it just occurred to me that I wanted to learn English. So the only way was to take a little bit of a break from my practice to come to the States, only to realize that after I was supposed to be here for 6 to 9 months to just fulfill my dream on the checklist, on my bucket list of just knowing how to speak English, here I am 34 years later. So as I went through the process of learning the language, I got into a field that I had very little knowledge on, which is respiratory therapy. So I became a therapist at Georgia State University. That gave me a chance to start working in the pediatric ICU. So I did pediatric ICU, got into academics at the same university where I was trained. I was offered a position as a clinical instructor, which I loved because that's kind of just my dream, just to teach in the medical field. And that, again, got into be a part-time position. Then they offered me a full-time position as a professor at Georgia State. That's how I started my academic career. So then more and more, I left my practice. I left the ICU. And then 19 years ago, I was offered by UT Health, San Antonio, a position as a full professor and to coordinate research. So I've been doing this for the last 19 years. I teach pharmacology, I teach research, I teach neonatal pediatrics, and so heavily involved in all the academic world. And I've been blessed to be around the world, just being invited for conferences at the American College of Chest Physicians. I'm a fellow of that association. So it's been, the profession has been very good to me, but I'm more in academics.
Wow. So you're basically teaching young doctors how to function in the professional world of medicine?
Exactly. So I have 2 different roles. The main role is to form or just to train respiratory therapists, which is funny because most people don't know what a respiratory therapist does. But it is very critical because during the COVID was actually the respiratory therapist who was at the bedside managing the patients on the ventilator and being responsible for them. So let's say this profession that I teach at was placed in a map due to COVID, because before it was just, maybe you can see ER, just on Grey's Anatomy, the one who's just probably putting the tube in as a respiratory therapist. Other than that, it was actually very, very rare. So the bulk of my training is to respiratory therapists on a bachelor's degree, master's degree, and I also advise on a PhD, but also one of my roles is to train fellows in critical care. So that's kind of just how I divide my work.
Wow. So you got a pretty serious full-time job going on, but as a medical doctor, what attracted you to network marketing?
Interesting. Well, I got to say, John, that it had to be let's say the hook had to be something related to the two things that I do with passion, which is kind of just the medical one, and the science. And I bumped into network marketing and kind of just in a serious fashion when I was invited to funny LA. I'm going to be there 6 years later by a company who just invited me to say, hey, why don't you just hear? We know that you have a textbook. We know that you have publications in science. Why don't you take a look at this? And I think it was a byproduct. The network marketing was a byproduct of just learning about this product and how it was backed up by science that I got to know a little bit more. So to be honest, it was the product prior to network marketing. But I just thought the more I learned about the platform, it's a pretty smart platform. It's a financial monster anyway. And the way I see just growing my career into network marketing, the more I have discovered that it is a way to do things. I don't do that full time because this is my full time, but I can confess in this show that I know it is extremely reputable, that I wouldn't mind just in the next few years to be my plan A versus being my plan B as it is now.
Well, and like so many busy professionals, be they in medicine, be they in law, be they in academics, be they in, so many different things, right? We're living in an environment where everybody needs that secondary source of income. Things are just getting more and more expensive. And, sometimes those of us not in the medical profession, we've got this idea that, hey, if you're in the medical profession, you have a license to print money. The reality is for other medical professionals, when they hear our interview, how should they maybe take a look at either the company you're with or a similar company that has a validated evidence-based product that they can take to the marketplace, use their credentials for, and build a secondary income for themselves and their families?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone is in need of whatever you want to call it, John. The 200, the 500, the 1,000, the 2,000, the 5,000, and $10,000 extra. I think this platform really allows you to have a career where it is your pace, or your pace, your passion, and your actions that are going to take you to meet that goal. I am very well paid at the university, so I'm not complaining about what most people say. Hey, do you like what you do in your regular work, and then do network marketing? It's funny. I'm not going to raise my hand saying I don't like my job, but it's a tremendous opportunity, and I think it serves so many people. You think about evidence-based products, and the platform is here to stay. Now that I'm a networker, I realize that we have a good foundation and companies that have been doing this way too many years that it hasn't failed. You failed, but the platform never fails you. So if you take really good advantage of this, you can serve so many people. You can serve your needs. You can just simply develop this as a hobby. But I realize that unless I do this professionally, so that means that I train myself, I train my team, the outcome just financially is not as rewarding as it is if you just do it just because it's a good platform.
Sure. Now you've been able to economize time. And, once again, as somebody with a very, serious profession, which takes up many, many hours, not only, obviously in the classroom, but at home and preparing and, everything else that you're already involved with, you've been able to look at the digital space, primarily TikTok, correct me if I'm wrong on that, and really utilize it to build a business all over the world on a very part-time basis. So you want to elaborate a little bit on what you've done?
It's interesting because one of my co-workers here in the medical field had mentioned that to me probably about 2 years ago. Ruben, you gotta do TikTok. And I said, I don't have time. And it was actually my wife, Diana, who just told me, you gotta be able to develop a 30-second video. Come on. You've been teaching around the world. You have audience of thousands of people. It's like, come on. So I tried, and I just made a joke and just danced with her, and then I just created a video with my daughter, and then I just became serious about it. It's like, you know what? The attention span of people is too short. It's not that I'm going to deliver a presentation in Shanghai, as I was telling just my students, for 25 minutes, and I have to travel all around the world to deliver 25 minutes and just empty hands, but with the satisfaction of teaching. And I just said, well, let me just start just creating videos. And And I think most of my preparation in the medical field and now on the platform allowed me to be just not spending a lot of time just creating these videos. And then I just started noticing just more followers and more followers. And so if you are just watching this, don't believe that Dr. Restropo is just so popular that, my goodness, it must have 5 million. But I'm about to celebrate 32,000 followers. They keep me busy, John. So it's been a tremendous impact. And it's very interesting because my passion is not to make false promises, which is something that if you can realize, you've been in the field for about 40 some years. It is very easy to create passion with false premises. I do not do that. Not even with my product, not even with the platform. But TikTok is, let's say, the model is here to stay, and it serves something that as a networker is very useful, which is just the cold population, people who you don't know, but they learn to trust you because of what they see, and they approach you instead of just you approaching them. So it's much easier to take that approach and actually just to feed the needs of people who saw already value on what you put up there. And I've been extremely happy. So I try to generate as much material, something that I've done, and I think is very useful for those who are watching that are using this platform or are planning to use them, is I respond to comments. I respond with videos. I not only create my own videos, but I just take a comment and I see a value of that and say, you know what, this will be useful, that they see Dr. Restropo just answering to that comment or question, or even something negative. I'm always very positive, John. You got to be positive to be successful. And so it's been very good. I don't do too much Facebook. I don't do too much Instagram. I really don't have the time except for a little bit of TikTok, just to maximize the time that it takes to create something on TikTok, which is not, it's not tremendously long. It's not that demanding as I thought.
Well, and let me say this, because Doctor and I are in the same company. I'm actually blessed to be your upline, way upline, but I've seen the results, and the numbers are unbelievable of what you've done. But secondary question on that, Doc, because I'm sure a lot of people are wondering the same thing. Where did you get these skills? Now, somebody at work mentioned it to you, and you mentioned your daughter. Did your daughter, obviously being younger, did she say, "Hey, Dad, here's what you do," or did you take a course? Or did you just kind of trial and error?
No, I think I would say if you're smart enough, spend the 50, 70 bucks, $100 to get a course, a simple course. I haven't spent a dime. I don't promote myself. I don't invest in that. Maybe I should. I've been told, what if you were to invest about 50 bucks to get a more granular population? I haven't done that. I haven't even had the time to think about it. But I think the key success of TikTok is just being you. Show myself. I record videos from my work. So I take my lunchtime. I guess my lunchtime is my lunchtime. So if I don't eat and I create something and I call a customer, that's perfectly my time. So I maximize it. And I don't have the time to do significant editing. So only when I play around with different apps, I say, well, let me just make on this one, make a transition. But if you watch my videos, 95% of the time are completely untouched and edited. It's just as it is. And I think that's what people like. That's what I like on people. If I watch people, I want something. I watch Dr. Biter, very genuine, very frank, very go to the point. He doesn't just do things and just change his colors on his. So I think that's very key to, if you want to deliver a message to people, it must be you talking, which is actually very key when now customers or consultants approach you. They want to see the same person, the same energy that you display, that you are not just simply an actor, and then you move to the real life and you're a different person. So when you get to meet me, I'm showing the same enthusiasm that you and I have shared when we went to Houston to team building. It is the same me. And I think that's actually a very key for you to be successful, is you just show yourself as you are. Don't change, and don't be a car dealership center that, again, once the customer turns around, you hate him. No, it cannot be like that. So I think that's a very key point. But I haven't been trained to do that. So a few times I just save let's say a video on how to improve things, and I never get to watch it. How to make transitions, or to, no. I don't have the time to do that. But I think if you do, my goodness, the training on CapCut, on TikTok, Instagram are so dirt cheap these days. So if that's the reason reason why you are not doing this, you might as well spend the money. If not, just stay. I mean, stay. Just play yourself cold. I'm going to record myself for 30 seconds and let's see where it takes me. Have you realized, John, that sometimes those 50-second videos are like 6 million viewers? You're like, are you nuts? This is saying, here I am, here I am, here I am, and then you're popular. Well, I need more content just to be that popular and to make money out of that, but it is there. There's a lot of, I think there's a lot of money just to be done by helping people, but there's a lot of money to be done by taking advantage of the social media.
Right. Great. And how important is self-development been for you since you're a networker or before, for that matter?
Very important. I see that if I just put a lot of action and I don't train, I'm just doing a full circle, maybe just with success about, let's say, commissions based on customers, but it's about team building. So, and the only way you team build, I mean, let me give you an example. I read so many years ago GoPro, but now we have a reading club Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays with my team at 8 a.m. So we read for about half hour. So now we just started about just a few months ago. We are now on Eric Ward's GoPro. And it's amazing because I read this so many years ago and it's like, oh my goodness, I should have read this every 6 months or so, because that's so important. If I want to be really a professional, I gotta be just reading from professionals. And that's why we started doing this. I also try to take advantage of it's all the training that the company provides. Every single event, either I'm participating or not, is actually very useful because I'm always learning something. When you realize that you're presenting, let's say, the product and you present the platform, all it takes is just to listen to somebody like you, John, or let's say other platinums of the just high level, just high ranks in the companies. Like, I like that. So you gotta keep just training yourself just to better yourself. If you think about just maybe the smaller team compared to what you have, I gotta serve as a model to people who want to read, learn more about the network marketing, just be more confident and realize that this is a true profession.
Sure. So let's talk about something else. There's a lot of products, obviously, in the direct selling industry that are health related, majority of them, not all, but majority. And a lot of times a layperson wants to talk to their doctor, their chiropractor, their dentist, their whatever about it. And there's a kind of a wall put up sometimes where, well, how come you're talking to me about health? I'm a healthcare professional. And if the person comes off the wrong way, the conversation doesn't go very far. And sometimes it's an uncomfortable conversation because, for the doctor, that's also a patient or a customer, right? So on both ends, how do we bridge that gap so that when that proverbial tennis ball is hit from the patient who says, Doc, I found this product I want to take and I'm selling it, and I think you ought to take a look at it because I think you could market it as well, so that they're approached professionally. And if the doctor's not interested for whatever reason, okay, that, they handle it that way. But first off, let's talk about it from the standpoint of the layperson. So the layman comes to you and they say, Doctor, I've got this product. It's great. You got to sell it. You got all that. How do you talk back to that layperson?
It's interesting because I kind of just, I make jokes when I teach and I just tell them, you know what, don't change the product, change the doctor. So I know it is not that simple, but in a sense, sometimes what I try to mean to every single customer is that you got to think about the doctor who's open-minded enough to realize that there must be some reading prior to saying you must not take this product. Because after we will have seen, particularly let's say with our product, it will be a big mistake negating that possibility to a patient. But the patient trusts physicians, they trust us. And one of the videos just says, it is amazing the impact that we do have in people when we write the order and they don't ask any questions to anyone. They don't ask any questions to anyone. You actually suggest a product and they want to ask every single person. I mean, the gatekeeper, the architect, the engineer, the OBGYN, and they will ask you, John, is this true? So how do I close the bridges by saying that it is true that you ought to share information with your doctors, but sometimes also you got to realize that the doctors are not going to know a lot about integrative medicine, which is the new world. Honestly, to be honest with you, John, only those who consider, and that's how we call ourselves in the company, those of us who actually are out of the closet, that we just left the closet that we were in, that we are able to appreciate what was in the closet of value and what is outside. We get to tell the customers and patients exactly the same thing, is that you get to trust your physician on the things that the physician knows, but just facing the unknown for physicians is extremely uncomfortable. And they would have always a preference to say, do not take this, without the knowledge, in our case, of 40 years of research, 92 articles. It's out there. But how could you force, as a customer, the physician to say, read this and then just come back to me? You're going to make a responsible decision about saying, you don't ask physicians sometimes about exercise. You know it's good for you. You don't ask physicians about hydrating yourselves. It's just good for you. And then you help with nutrition. You're not going to ask the physician for every single question. Sometimes, I believe, John, to be honest with you, and I know that so many people are going to be watching this, that you're going to take a decision for yourself sometimes. But after you make an informed decision, make sure that this is very well researched, that it's a reputable company, that it has a good track, and then feel tempted not to ask your physician, because in my particular case, most of my clientele suffer from cancer. And you know already more than I do. There's like most oncologists are going to say, do not take that. And again, I think it is the unknown, just the sense of feeling uncomfortable with something out there that you don't know makes you have a tendency to say to patients and customers, don't take that. So it's very hard at this point to close that bridge. The more we put it out there, the more we talk about it, the more articles people start seeing, the bridge is going to be just getting closer and closer, but it's going to take a lot of time. And it may not happen, John, at some point. The only thing I have to say is this. Medical schools are doing something about it. I travel enough around the world for medical reasons other than the company, because I travel with the company a lot. You see that I travel a lot with also the company. But I see that more and more medical schools are putting this integrative medicine. And the words like, let me just mention, because this is very generic, the words like glutathione, it doesn't become like a rare instance, for example, or the word like superoxidase dismutase. So things that were probably very abstract even to physicians are becoming more known in medical schools to help now patients in a different way that is not just simply pharmacy products.
Well, I'll share this with you, Doc, because you're still fairly new to the industry. And when I started out as a kid, the company I was with, which is still in business, this was 1983, had a fish oil product, an omega-3 product. And my father was a heart patient. I went to see his doctor. The doctor threatened to have me arrested for giving him a book about omega-3s. He had to literally, didn't know my father was a patient of his, by the way. I just kind of walked in. I was on my lunch break. I was selling health club memberships while I was finishing college. And literally I got scared. I was like, oh, I got to leave. I'm a young kid. But you think about today, the acceptance of omega-3s, everywhere from Walmart to every direct selling company, you name it, the omega-3s are just kind of accepted by the medical profession, the non-medical profession. That's something that's probably good for us. I mean, I think it is. I assume you do. But, whether it is or isn't, that product grew up through the network marketing industry and eventually wound up in the big box stores and eventually, of course, the internet as it evolved. So we've seen exactly what you just said, where eventually people go, hey, wait a minute, maybe there is a lot of merit to this nutrition stuff, and these supplements. Maybe we should actually be more open-minded towards them. So I'm glad to hear that.
And John, something that you said is very key. If only doctors at this point, again, not just to hammer on that too much, but if only doctor would say it must be good for you, honestly, that's what all customers of the product base that is evidence-based will need. That must be good for you.
Yep.
but making decisions about what you don't know is where I feel that is just misinformation. And I try to tell that in TikTok as well. I hate misinformation. I don't hate oncology. I don't hate my colleagues. I just hate misinformation. So because who is the victim after all? It's our customer, it's our client, it's our patient.
Of course, of course, of course. So let's come back to the digital marketing for a minute here. How do you see the future with this? I mean, you've seen some amazing stuff just in these last few years, with TikTok and with the evolution of your own, business organization. But what do you see going, long term into the future, utilizing, these different technologies, international expansion, et cetera, et cetera?
I would say that the TikTok viewer or just social media viewer is going to be looking for two types of things. Emotions, people who share, let's say, their lives or emotions, and they want to be empathetic, but also they feel themselves, and you know what, if this person who is real is showing me how to feel about myself because he or she got through that. There's plenty of emotions shared in TikTok. The other thing that people are going to is to buy things. It's amazing. The market for TikTok is humongous. Believe it or not, I was watching one of the videos for one of my clients who is now a consultant because she got on cancer remission after she was told about over a year ago that she had 3 months to live.
Wow.
So I was checking one of her videos where she said, "These are my results." And this was probably about 2 or 3 days ago. It was very emotional. Her name is Carolina. And then I said, "This is amazing." I ended up just watching something. Oh my goodness. And I did click. I bought something else. I bought this gum something thing. I mean, something like that. So there's no question that it will drive a lot of business. But I think in the future, what the key is, many people are going to be looking into, let's say, real leaders who are not just simply selling products, but selling the opportunity. And that's where network marketing just goes. As they identify not only providers of good products, but people who represent companies on the network marketing, they will be more interested in finding through social media, who do I trust to do business with? That's what I see is coming. It has happened already because honestly, I can say that I have 3, 4 of my leaders in Spain and a few of them in Peru, TikTok. They came through TikTok.
Amazing.
So to me, it serves all the needs of network marketing.
Amazing. Yeah, it's kind of like they were hand in glove. They kind of fit each other.
Yeah.
I go back to the whole COVID situation, and I think of Zoom. Before COVID, I didn't know what Zoom was. All of a sudden, it was like you had a need, and then you find out there's this technology that you go, "Hey, wait a minute. I can sit in Dallas, Texas, and communicate with people in Toronto or London or wherever in the world. We can actually have a conversation, and they don't need to leave their house and take any risk, and I don't need to leave mine." And all of a sudden now Zoom becomes, who doesn't know about Zoom? Probably less people don't know about it than do.
Trust me. I mean, even before COVID, I had webinars where I had 1,500 people who I never had in the auditorium. I mean, I get the most massive audience that I had as a medical speaker, for example, maybe 500, 600 people. That's a lot of people for a medical conference. But when you actually just prepare a webinar for, let's say, a mechanical ventilation company, so I'm a consultant for those who manufacture the mechanical ventilators in the ICU, it's like, 1,500 people from all over the world.
Wow.
So you can reach a lot of people. So I think Zoom again brought us back to, we never stopped teaching. We didn't close the school. My students got to know me just at the end, but for almost 2 years. We just got through Zoom and we got through the training. So I got to see everyone and just instill the same professionalism. This is how you're going to be just wearing. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to be looking at your shorts, but you got to look professional. So it facilitated so many things, but in fact, it just allowed you to see how your circle will get a little bit larger and larger because technology allows you to do that.
Amazing.
So not taking advantage of that for whatever reason you have, but in particular case as professional networkers will be a big mistake, a big mistake.
Agreed. Agreed. So let's talk a little bit about the economy. So we're certainly in a time of high inflation, not only here in the United States, but you travel all over the world. I travel all over the world. A lot of our listeners, also, wherever you go, seems to be the number one thing on most people's lips right now is, prices are up. So let's take a look at that for a minute and say, where do you see in this gig economy MLM fitting for everyone, from medical professional to school teacher to, all the other different professions that are out there? How do you see it fitting? I mean, obviously using information sciences like you're talking about is a great way, but how do people get that this is real? How did you get it was real? Okay. And how should they get it was real?
I'm going to be completely transparent in regards to I am far from being an economist and just knowing enough more than, or at least not knowing more than what most people know. The economy is just fluctuating. Situation is not very stable. But it's interesting because, again, I'm making the same amount of money here at UT, but I'm making more money every single day on network marketing. So if that is the reality for me, what could it be? Why should it be an expert and impress people with statistics? It's like my life is a reflection of what this company and this platform allows you to do. If my salary is stable, but the situation, let's say, in the department are not stable because we just had one faculty member who took a position somewhere else, and she's not going to be replaced. So that hurts the dynamics of the program because then we got to do a little bit more work. Well, but I'm still making the same money. So I appreciate the stability that the university gives me, but I'm making more money on network marketing. And when I look at the trend, that's a different thing that most people will learn once they get professionally and doing this the right thing, is that while you work your 40 hours and you keep a salary like this, and maybe just goes a little bit. So this is my graph, by the way. Okay, so this is my graph. And it just moves like this. And then you start network marketing, and this has been for me 6 years. And every single trend that you look at graph that I draw is not like this, but it's just going and going and going. Which one should I choose? That's why I'm putting as much as I can, as much effort and dedication with my wife to make this a real life, a real project, because numbers don't lie. And I think that's been, I'd say, our invitation to those who have never explored network marketing because of this stigma or this prejudice or bad ideas that you have learned from somebody who failed, not the system, but you failed. But it is about this. I mean, once you look at the numbers and you realize that how could it be that you're making 50% of your salary full-time work by working 1 or 2 hours a day, something is not right. Well, something is right. That means that whatever you spend in the less time is giving you more money. That's what you should be doing full-time.
Wow. That's solid advice. So Doc, in wrapping up, okay. So you're a true Renaissance man. I we know each other out of business as well, and we've gotten to be friendly, and I admire you so much at so many levels. But what's your advice to somebody that's listening, and maybe they're not where you are, or they're not where I am for that matter? They're struggling. They're struggling in network marketing. They're struggling in life in general. They don't know which end is up. They got more month than money. The utility bill comes in and the credit card bill comes in, and they're saying, man, just, every month is more stress and more stress and more stress. And they look and they say, what should I do? Give them a plan of action for whatever company they're in, whether it's the one you're in or whatever one they're in, because we got listeners from about 60 companies. What's your advice?
I would say you can start with faith. Faith is not going to just create an income for you, but it's going to be a good point to start, because the more obstacles you put in your mind, the much more difficult it's going to do whatever task it requires for you to move on. Something else is that you probably have heard, many people have heard about this, is that you are not investing into a lottery ticket. You just wait and see what happens. when they announce the number, you become a millionaire. That's just a misconcept. Something else about the way you study is what brought you this itching about studying network marketing. If you find, let's say, a different company, just realize that it's the same itch, is the same reason about this platform, about working as a team, but you got to do something. And the plan of action is extremely important. Most of us are very disorganized in our agenda, so it takes to organize yourself and to create a system and also find a good mentor. I don't know. I haven't been to just network marketing companies, but I've heard from people like you or different levels of higher ranks is that it takes to just bug someone who has been successful to become successful, to learn about the system that they use. Because believe it or not, John, you have been in business for 43 years. I've been in business 6 years. We started exactly at the same point, which is point zero.
Mm-hmm.
Point zero. I have to say, as a personal testament, that if it took me about 6 years to know where I am, and I'm half a point where John is, but I'm as happy as I could be, is because I put a lot of effort, but not exactly the amount of time that is so crazy that I have to quit my job out here in my office, taking advantage of my lunchtime, just trying to enjoy with my good friend John, because that's what it takes, dedication. I could be just taking a lunch or just going to Starbucks or just spending my time, but this is for myself. This is training. I'm being able to just put a seed on someone who has tried this before and who failed, not the system, because it's very clear from old companies that are here present teaching us that this is a multi-billion trillionaire platform. You gotta be part of this. So don't lose faith. Just make sure that you remember this. There's no business where you spend $500, $600 that you expect to see a return that soon, getting the same amount of you invest every single month in just a few months. I don't know. Maybe illegally, but we are not in that particular case. And consistency. This is a race. I tell my team, I just told just one of my team members in Colombia, don't leave the race. You stop, but don't stay out of the lane. Because sometimes we run, we sprint, we walk, we limp, but as long as we stay, we will see the result. There's no question. Because I see, a particular case of one of my very successful consultants in Peru. He just decided that it was better to move to a different lane, start from zero, and now he's been through 5, 6 different lanes. That's not the way to do it. Mm-hmm. You concentrate and focus on something, and your focus will take you there.
Great. Well, Doctor, this has been a privilege. I appreciate you sharing, especially on your lunch hour. I know how crazy it is. I know the kids are just back in school, and I know you got many things. So if you can hang 1 second, let me stop the recording part. We'll just do a little housekeeping. But I want to thank you again, my friend, and tremendous insight and refreshing, by the way. I love everybody that I interview. I learn so much from them. But your vantage point as a medical professional, as a professor, and as somebody who's still fairly new to network marketing, it's been delightful to have this conversation and watch your amazing progress month to month.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate it. Honestly, it's an honor. I know that your program is really top, just not only in the U.S., in the world. So it is a privilege to be here and just sharing exactly what I feel is just the right thing to do. And so maybe when I grow up, I just become one just like you. So just.
Well, I'll talk about that off camera. Thanks, Doc.
Hey, thank you.
Hang on.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Leave Nothing to Chance. If you want to know more about what it takes to succeed in the network marketing space, join us again next week for another amazing episode. For additional resources and to connect with John Solleder, visit leavingnothingtochance.com. Don't forget to leave a review, and we'll see you next time.